Yeah, welcome to Live Protest. This is Donald Jeffries coming to you from just outside the swamp infested Washington, D.C., as we do every Friday at this time. We are experiencing technical difficulties, which is pretty much the norm on our show. If you've been listening to it long enough, you know that. I have a great guest, of somebody I very much admire, Stephanie Sledge. I think she's one of the most underrated researchers out there today. I think I'm one of her biggest fans, so I like to have her on when I can, but her connection isn't great. So right now she's having trouble with it. So she's going to try to get back on. If not, we're just going to have to wing it. So hopefully Stephanie can join us. She's done some great work. If you've seen my interviews with her in the past, you know that I did the best work of anybody by far on the Gabby Giffords, whatever was going on there at the Safeway back in the day, which it was in 2011, I think, and that really triggered uh, an epidemic of these mass casualty events with the Batman shooting, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, all these things that we all questioned. But so not sure. Let's see. Hold on. See, she's sorry about this. I'm communicating with her. Okay, she's going to restart. She had no problems with your internet all day until now, but that doesn't surprise me. So, I tell you, folks. I mean, recently, it really seems like my shadow band or whatever you want to call it is being ratcheted up everywhere now. It just really is. And I think I've told you all, and any of you that follow me on X, you might wonder what happened to me. Well, I didn't stop going there. I like it. It's a good resource for me, even though they still shadow ban me to hold down my platform. It's very obvious, and many people have told me that. But still, it's a platform. It's a resource, and it's better than Facebook because Facebook has been shadow banning me for years. But someone hacked into my X account. It's going on like 3 weeks or so now, and I cannot get it back. I keep trying to use X's support, and X's support is as bad as it gets. Elon Musk, I guess, is walking the walk and keeping it real because he uses 100% AI support. You cannot get a human being's input. And for those of you that think AI is superior, just try X support. I mean, it's horrible. It doesn't answer any of your questions. I try to explain to it. It doesn't react. It just regurgitates the same pat talking points that they've obviously been given. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But I did deactivate this bogus account that someone created, and I think it was the 3rd or something. So supposedly after a month, it goes away for good. So maybe at that point, I can try to get back to it. So here's Stephanie again. Let's see if we can get her on. Hello, Stephanie. Your video is frozen. Stephanie, turn off your camera and maybe your audio will work better. Sometimes that works. If you turn off your camera, it's taking too many resources, and then maybe your audio will work better. Can you try that? All right, I'm going to message you that in case you can't hear me. Sorry, folks, this is live streaming.
I can see you.
Okay, send me a
I can't hear you. I mean, I can hear you, but you're crackling. I might have to restart my internet and see if that's the issue.
Yeah, it's if you can try turning off your camera if you can hear me, and maybe the audio will work better then. Or just restart your thing. I just messaged you on Facebook, but because you're frozen, and I guess I sound like to you like you sound to me, very garbled. So this is I love talking with you. You're a great researcher, and it is what it is. I have these problems connecting with people. I think they don't want to hear what we have to say. So you can either try resetting your internet or try turning off your camera. Maybe it'll work better with just your audio. And we'd love to see you, but sometimes the audio works better if you don't. But this is an example. Okay, there you go. Maybe she's turning it off. I don't know. No, it's just going around in circles. We'll see. But this is kind of what I'm talking about, folks, is that this kind of stuff. I mean, okay, yeah, she's left. She's going to probably try to get back in, but um, I don't know. And this goes back to my TFR days. If you listen to me on TFR, and that was just audio. There was no video with that, but we had so many issues with that all the time. And I really don't think it's my equipment because it's very selective about it. Like if you've ever caught me on Union of the Unwanted, which I'm unwanted there sometimes, not often enough. They ask me very, very irregularly now. Once in a while I get an invite, but when I'm on there, but every time my microphone messes up, and it doesn't seem to mess up on anything else, but it messes up on that show. And it also has messed up. I haven't been asked back by Kim Iverson for a while because my connection was so bad last time. So it seems to mess up on, a big show like that and seems to be very selective. So anyhow, well, good. I'm glad a few of you are in the chat. I got to tell you, I'm not sure what's going on with all the other stuff going on with X and Facebook has a new thing they're doing now where I can't reply half the time. It's just, with these things being ratcheted up, thank goodness for Substack. It's the only place I'm not being face banned. Shadow banned. I look at it and I wonder what is happening uh, to the audience here. I mean, really, I'm getting a lot smaller numbers. I know what's happening. And I'm looking now. There's just very few of you in the chat. And great to see White Wolf and Brian and Deb McCarthy, UYY 1984, GBGN1. But there's a lot of names and people know them that were here for a long time. Now there's MQ8HM. Good to see you again. And again, I appreciate every one of you here, but there used to be a lot more people in the chat, and there used to be some regulars, and I don't know what's going on. Have I pretty much saying the same stuff I always have? So I don't think I'm scaring people off. I don't believe, but if I am, it is what it is. I just try to tell the truth. So Nick, okay, good to see you, Nick. And but because I like to open up the show later, and at this point, it may be sooner than later. There's Marco, good to see you. Dion, good, great to see you. I mean, these are great. These are not, and these are new names. Great to see people there. And but I wonder what happened with the. I have no idea. I got a message on my email that the email associated with my account had been changed, and of course I didn't change it to some gobbledygook address. And it's. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. He always enjoys your discussions. I'm sorry so much complaining about this stuff for trying to deal with technical difficulties, trying to get a guest on. Jack Mullen, good to see you. But then I went to try to go to X, and it was making me log in, which I always stay logged in. So I tried to log in, and it said the password is wrong. It wasn't wrong. I didn't change the password. And that's the end of that story. I've never been able to log in, and on my main computer that I use for X, it doesn't even recognize my @Don Jeffries account. It doesn't find it in this other bogus account, Donald Jeff 72. I don't know, something again. I didn't create it. That takes precedent over it. So it keeps trying to sign in on that account. I don't want that. So that's the one I ended up deactivating that. But it's still X support still recognizes it. So in my emails to this crazy AI support, it says this account is associated, this email account is associated with more than one X account, and it's not. It's that bogus account. I've tried to explain that to them. So one of the recourses is they say, well, use another email to email us back. So I did that 3 times. They don't respond to it. In fact, the one time they did respond, they said, we do not recognize this email with any X account. Well, no, it isn't. But you told me we're going around in circles, and it's again the dangers of just how bad. I mean, I guess when you're dealing with Kyle from India, that it's trying to impersonate an American, and all the help you get on the phones all the time, which is very bad. But it's nothing compared to this frustrating. At least you can talk to a human being, try to reason with them. The AI stuff is because they simply they don't have the capacity or it's not built in there or whatever. So very, very disappointed in Elon Musk. If this is the idea, I mean, I understand. Okay, people can be hacked, but I spent years trying to build that up. Okay, White Wolf, you may have to be coming on here soon. We'll see. I'm going to see if I can get Stephanie on. But you know, I spent years trying to build that account up into, I got it to like 6,500 subscribers, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But the entire time I was fighting against, I would lose 500 subscribers at a time for no reason. And so many people tell me that, well, I was following you, but I followed you like 8 times and something keeps unfollowing you. And so, I was dealing with that and them, blocking my people from seeing my tweets just like they were blocked from seeing my Facebook post. But eventually I was able, growing very slowly, but I got it up to that. And but now I don't want to start from scratch because I mean the odds are it's how long is that going to take me? Especially the shadow ban something still preventing it, obviously. So it's very frustrating. And again, it drums home the point I make all the time that so many of us that are truly independent that aren't installed by somebody that are trying to look at things honestly and haven't been bought and paid for. Who she's Stephanie. Okay, come on, Stephanie. Let's see if this works out. Okay, we're going to try again with Stephanie. Stephanie, can you hear me? I see your hair kind of blowing.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, I can kind of hear you. You're still kind of garbled. I see your hair blowing a little from a fan or something. So at least there's some movement in the video. Before you were frozen. So that's
Yeah,
good.
I just talked to Don, you're a little bit garbled too, so I'm not sure
Yeah.
what's going on with the audio. I just restarted my router, and go figure, right? I had a great internet all day, and then all of a sudden now I don't. But it says I have full bars now. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear. That's fine. So that's good. And you may try if you turn off your audio, I mean your video, because you're not really moving anyhow. You're kind of frozen. Maybe if you turn your video off, the audio will work better. Let's give it a try. Turn your camera off.
I've got my audio all the way up.
No, I said turn it. If your audio is fine. Turn your video, your camera off, and then maybe the audio will work better. Sometimes that helps because it's using up resources, and you're pretty much frozen anyhow. Can you hear that? And we lost her. Folks, this is welcome to the world of Don Jeffries. Marcos, it says the last post was apparently 329. Yeah, it was like the 30th, I think, was the last time I was able to access it at all. And White Wolf says, if you're being banned, that means you're not a shill. Well, we've already established that White Wolf says I'm pretty much the only shill. Jason Barker, too. We're the only two people that are not shills. So I'll take that, but I think it's pretty obvious I'm not a shill. But although you may think otherwise now, because I did get some interesting news where somebody in Substack, again, the only place I'm not shadow banned, so I can get something going there. Please, John Bascom says Alex Jones was banned, and he is the patent quintessential control opposition. Yeah, I tell you, yeah, he was. Well, again, I don't know what that was. That was, I think that was more of a show to show that they could do it, and that it ended up being a lot of people were banned from YouTube after that, and then people like me, I have to watch what I'm live streaming now because I have to make sure that I don't say the wrong thing, because that's why if you wonder why most of my videos are not on YouTube, because I'm scared to leave them up that I'm gonna lose the channel, because I need the ability to live stream here, because Rumble I can't, I'm trying to grow my Rumble channel. It just, it's nothing. And I put some videos over there. I put the videos that I don't keep on YouTube over there, trying to get people to subscribe to it. And obviously I can't live stream on X now. Facebook has never really worked, but I can't on X because I'm not there. So YouTube is indispensable at this point. Marcus says, you think it's possible to use magnets and pro sport? When I back in the day when I was first in my youth, when I was even more hilarious, um, I I came up with something I called magnetic aberration, and I used to claim that's one of the ways they fixed basketball. That they would either suck in a ball or bounce it out depending on who was supposed to win. Yeah, I said some crazy things. I don't know if that could even be possible, but it's probably not impossible. You don't know, but I think they probably don't need that because in basketball and football both, the referees play such an important role that they really can pretty much rig determine the outcomes of games all by themselves. Thank you, John Baskin. He says he'll vouch for me. I'm one of the poor unfortunates with a conscience and a soul. Well, I definitely have a conscience and a soul. That I try to try to do the best I can, and but it does get disillusioning. I mean, like I said, Candace Owens. I mean, I realize that she came from somewhere, and I'm sure White Wolf and many others would say she's installed, and she does appear to be, but she's done some really good work in the last few years, real good journalism. So I was, kind of disillusioned when my guest Dana Duda a couple weeks ago went into how she has the same kind of background as Erica Kirk, ironically does, and it's the same kind of thing where apparently her father was in charge of the cleanup crew at San Diego. What? So what do we have? So who can you trust? But Tucker Carlson, who certainly appears to be planted as well and came from wealth. His father was in the CIA, and for a long time, he was pretty much a conservative shill that badmouthed 9/11 truthers and everything. But he has undergone a dramatic transformation. And one of my readers on Facebook discovered that two of my books, Hidden History and Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776 and 1963, are in his Tucker Carlson's bookstore on his website, which is, that's amazing to me. I mean, I was never contacted about it. They don't contact you with these things. And my publisher, when I asked him about it, he kind of, he didn't really say that much. But so I think I'm excited about it. But I mean, what does that mean? If Tucker Carlson is a shill, and if you look at his bookstore, there's not it's not like they have a whole lot of books there. He's pretty selective. So, I don't know who recommended my book to him, but, or my books, but somebody did. Maybe he'll pick up American Memory Hall and get really bold and go for Masking the Truth. But so I don't know what to think. All I know is that I hope that doesn't make me a shill. UYY says Nick Flynn is making fun of Candace is the funniest thing I've heard in the radio. Well, and he can be funny, but again, I think Nick Flynn is a shill, definitely. I'm with White Wolf on that one. I think he's an absolute because this is a guy who who talks about Jews and Israel all the time and is often telling the truth, but for some reason, he vehemently objects to anyone saying that Israel was involved in the Kirk assassination. Jack Mullen says he hears my audio is garbled off and on. Stephanie's having much luck trying to access. Says she gets disconnected. Your video is for really. Is anybody else? Is Jack the only one seeing that? Jerry Goronsky says, "Updates running. Good to see you, Jerry." Is anybody else seeing me freeze up? Because I haven't heard that for a while. Jack, I'm sorry. I hope it's just you. Nick says seems fine, and it looks fine to me. Usually I can tell when I have problems, but I don't see that. Ron Helton, good to see you. Sounds clear to me. So I don't know, Jack. Maybe it's you. Gorilla Underground. And she says, everyone give the stream a thumbs up. Yeah, please, we need more likes. Give the stream a thumbs up. And Bingo says, well, yes, Jack, it looks like it's you. I mean, I've certainly had my share of problems, but lately it seems like, except for when I'm on the Union of the One. Oh, good. Teresa, good to see you, Teresa. She says your video and audio are both good for me. So, well, good to see that. Good to see more people in the chat. And when I open it up here, when I open up the links eventually, I want to see I would love to see some other people. Besides, White Wolf is great. But I'd like to see some more, 'cause I want to, interact with you. I mean, the reason we do this is because we can't take conventional phone calls, but this is even better because this gives you the chance actually to make video calls if you want to jump on. I'd love this. I'd love to see what you guys look like. You know what I look like, so it's kind of it's really just kind of fun. Um, but I'm interested in my audience, and I because anybody that takes the time to listen to me is a blessing, and I really appreciate all of you. So I'm grateful that you're here, and grateful that you put up with this kind of nonsense when I can't, and I don't know between my guests and me, I don't know if something like Stephanie was saying her internet was working good all day until she came on my show. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not if I'm not already paranoid enough, somehow they're messing with the connection or something because it just seems pretty remarkable, how often we have these problems. And Stephanie has a lot of good things to say, and we've actually had issues connecting pretty much every time she's been on the show, and she always has such great stuff. And I know she was going to probably talk more about Artemis, which I just wrote about on Substack. If you're not subscribed to me there, it's donaldjeffries@substack.com. I protest just like this show. Please subscribe to me there. And if you're there and you're reading me or liking me, please restack it also. It's kind of like liking the video, when you're watching the video here. It just takes a second to click on it. I try to tell people that I'm getting good response over on Substack, and I am growing there, and I probably get more comments, especially the vast majority of people on Substack, and I get a good amount of likes. But my restacks are, very like shares. They're hit or miss, and they're off in terms of I don't get as many restacks as my likes and comments would indicate. I mean, I've compared myself to other people, and I'm saying, wait, why am I not? So basically, I've started trying to walk the walk, and whenever I like anything on Substack, I always restack it because those numbers help the algorithm. They're looking at the algorithm, and that's how you grow. And if people see, and there's three numbers they show: likes, comments, and restacks. If they see good numbers all across the board, they're more likely to join in and click to and become a subscriber. So if you could do that, really appreciate it. So I don't know. Poor Stephanie. Let's see if did she leave me a message? I don't think so. I'm communicating with her on Facebook. And she left her message to her friends on Facebook. So I don't know. I hope we can get her back because she always has some good stuff. White Wolf says Artemis has balls to watch Artemis, and NASA has balls. Well, they do, and but I think they really I don't think they care anymore, White Wolf. I really don't, because I mean they don't take much of an effort, and they know that there are millions of us out here now to varying degrees that are going to be skeptical of it. So really, if you don't want people to be skeptical, you're going to launch it on April 1st, April Fool's Day. I mean, that's an inside joke. That's basically a wink and a nod at us. Yeah. What are you going to do? It's April Fool's Day. I mean, come on. So, and again, I in my Substack article, I delineate, uh, why I'm so skeptical about it. But certainly, if you're Marcus, is Billy Ray just playing a role in his pushback on fake spacers? I don't know what roles Billy Ray's playing. I'm not sure. Billy Ray's, obviously not. It's not quite as radical as he used to be. He's certainly not. He's doesn't doubt quite as much as I do, at least in that way. Or good to see Raybo says, I can't stand Nietzsche Fuentes. Yeah, I mean, to me, Nick Fuentes is a quintessential plant. And because like I said, the guy just mysteriously dismisses any Zionist involvement or Israeli involvement in the Kirk assassination. And he was on Piers Owens. And this is a guy who I think disputes the Holocaust, although he really doesn't talk about it very much, which is an odd thing considering how strongly he talks about the Jews. But when he was on there, Piers Owens and Piers Morgan did ask him about it. And this is an opportunity that no Holocaust denier has ever had. And he curiously came up with some absurd game where he's saying, "Oh, at least 6 million." It was just really stupid. And I don't think Piers Morgan got the joke. It was really dumb. And and then he's urging everybody to vote for Democrats. I mean, I don't. The guy's, was given a lot of money when he was 16-year-old by a guy that committed suicide in France. So I don't know what you could say about it. Okay, Stephanie's back. Stephanie.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me? Okay, I can hear you good
Go
too.
figure.
Okay, well, I can hear you too. I've been trying to hold on. I know you got interesting stuff to say, so we got to make the most of it while you're here. So while we can hear you, so what are you working on right now, mostly?
Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what I'm working on right now. I haven't been working on any like major conspiracy projects, but what I have been working on is my partner Jack Mullen and I have resurrected the past, and we are bringing back to life the Ford International Weekly, which was Henry Ford's newspaper from
Oh,
the
sure, yeah,
1920s.
yeah.
The Jews, yeah. So we've been working on that. It's actually live right now. If anybody would like to go look at it and join, it's the Ford International Weekly.com. And I encourage everybody to. We have many writers. We'd like you to come on, Don. We actually are sharing your articles that you have that you give out for free on your site, and
sure.
we would
I
like to
appreciate
have
that.
you come join us. And
Sure, anytime. Just
so
let me
that's
know.
what
Yeah,
I've been working on.
great. Oh yeah, Henry Ford was I've written a lot about him. He was was it the International Jew that he published and used to hand out to all his workers at the factories. And this guy was one of the
Yes.
great pacifists of our era. People don't remember in World War I he had a peace ship, a peace yacht or something, and he tried to get the leaders of the world to go on board the yacht with him to try to avoid what was an incredibly stupid and pointless war in World War I. Couldn't get anybody to go. But he's now, I was arguing with a Jewish guy that comes on my Substack all the time, which is cool. I think it's great because he's not too bad, and we argue back and forth. But I said, look, Henry Ford was a great inventor. He was one of the foremost pacifists of all time, and he was the first guy I know of to raise the wages of his workers and say he needed to pay them enough to for them to buy his product, and he had to agree with that, but he, comes to things in an anti-Semite, which I think is unfair.
That's exactly what they targeted him as, and of course they went after him and forced him to shut down his newspaper, and so we'll see what happens with that. But I was able to get the domain, and we were able to file a copyright on it, and we're getting it going, and so we're going to have the best writers that we can find around the entire nation and the world, and we're gonna put the information out and see how it goes, and it'll be really great because we need a lot of people that write and do podcasts that are not afraid to speak the truth. And as we've seen over the years, there's a lot of very good writers and podcasters, and that have been shut down. You can no longer find their sites. A lot of them have given up, and so what we're trying to do is gather everybody together and have it all on one site where people can come and check the news every single day. We'll have new articles and podcasts up, and we'll I guess we'll go, and we'll have to deal with the fact that we're going to be labeled anti-Semites as well, but that's the choice that we're facing right now. They want everybody to keep their mouths shut, and they want to shut down the First Amendment. And people don't realize that the First Amendment is more than just speaking your mind. It's also about journalism and freedom of press. And so they go after people like you and I, and they go after a lot of people that are trying to, get the truth out, especially when it comes to what's happening, with Israel and all the Jewish agenda and the destruction of America.
Sure. Well, what do you think of? Because since we've talked last, there's been a massive transformation in terms of the public discourse. Within the last year or so, you now have people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and mainstream alt figures that are saying things I never thought David Duke didn't used to say. I mean, Tucker Carlson in several interviews has said, "What do you mean Israel has a right to exist?" He's questioning that. No one's ever done that. Candace Owens has talked about ritual murder. She's nibbling around the Holocaust, and I know she's going to talk about it at some point because she's going to. I can tell. So what do you think? Why are they letting us talk about all this stuff? I mean, was it to try to clamp down and throw everybody in the FEMA camps? Because there's stuff that I never thought would be openly discussed is being discussed everywhere now.
Yeah, I agree. I still am not very trusting of Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens, and I still believe that there's still some agenda there, whether they're plants or not, I don't know for sure, but I mean it is nice that people are talking about more and more agenda. I have noticed that that X is really the only place right now that you can get what appears to be uh, people speaking their mind, whether it's about Jewish agenda. And, so it's not going to last very long, though. I mean, there's all kinds of legislation and punishment. It doesn't matter whether there's legislation, that they want to pass, to, punish, I guess, anybody that talks about the Jewish agenda or against Israel or whatnot. But what's happening as well is the fact that there's all these corporations and people looking for jobs, what they consider social credits. Everything that you do is tracked and databased, and you have a score. I just saw an article today, and I don't know if you'll let me share my screen or not, but
share the screen.
Or if I can,
you should be able to.
Yeah, let me find it here. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is the fact that every state is equipped with some type of law.
Well, she was making her point, and now she's spinning in circles. She was probably going to talk about the 37. No, she's gone. She was probably going to talk about the 37 states that have enacted some kind of measure. I mean, it's hard to tell if any of them have any teeth, condemning or maybe farther than that, anti-Semitism, and they use that Holocaust remembrance or some organization. They use their working definition of it, which is very wide-ranging and includes some of the New Testament. It includes anything where you allude to Jewish power and the Jews controlling media or anything like that, which is what lots of people do. So it really does eat into public discourse. And as the comedian Leonardo Joni is very good on this stuff, as she pointed out on, I think it was Tim Pool, one of her shows, of course she gets on those platforms, that how many states have enacted measures to to outlaw criticism of any other country? None, obviously. And our Congress is preoccupied with that as well. It says only 37. Well, they're trying to get in all 50, and they probably will. Nick says Tucker and Candace have been too brave considering how influential they were to have a point of suspicion. Yeah, I mean, and again, what am I supposed to think about Tucker Carlson? Because Tucker Carlson now is offering 2 of my books in his bookstore. I don't know anything about it, but somebody had to tell them about my books. If you look at the bookstore, there's not a whole lot of them in there. I'm in pretty good company in terms of big names. So somebody that works for him or something had to know about me. I hope that doesn't make me a shill, but it's anyway, very interesting. So hopefully Stephanie get back. And I did want to talk to her about this because Stephanie has never held back in terms of talking about Zionism or disproportionate Jewish power. So I think this is, kind of a golden era for that as long as it lasts, because as I said, Zionism cannot be intellectually defended. And that's what you're seeing. Now, in terms if you get too, if you get talking too much about the Jews, again, I sometimes slip into that myself, and it's not right. It's not exactly accurate, because I've said we don't know what a Jew is. I have tons of cousins in my baby family that are one half Jewish, one quarter Jewish, one eighth Jewish, one 16th Jewish, because we had intermarriage like a century ago. So none of them are practicing Jews, and none of them consider themselves Jews. Met several of them are born againers, Christian Zionists, but so I don't know what that means. And there's been so much intermarriage. There's so many half Jewish, even celebrities and so forth. So I don't. I think the term is. I think it's better to say Zionism, because I think that's the problem. Because without Israel, that's where much of the power comes from, and the special rules for Israel. And that's why I think the world, finally looking at Zionism honestly and under a microscope, is saying that this is, this isn't right. There's special rules for this. They have a Samson option, an insane Samson option that no other country should be allowed to have. And you're worried about Iran and uh, North Korea having nuclear weapons, and you have this crazy country that has said, if we feel threatened, we reserve the right under the Samson option to blow up as much the world as you want. It's exactly right, Reba. If you want to know who rules over, just ask Shuff. You're not allowed to criticize. And anybody at this point that can argue that it is anything else than Jews that you're not allowed to criticize, tell me what it is. Because if it's so obvious, 37 states, what are they talking about? I mean, it's just like, so it's like you're making the point for the so-called anti-Semites. So Rabo says you can't say Zionism either. And that's the thing, is that criticism of Israel now has been said to be anti-Semitic. Well, no, it's not. I mean, we can't be afraid of that stupid. First of all, it's a dumb term. Anti-Semitic is inaccurate, because Semitic describes people of the Middle East, including the Palestinians. It doesn't appear to describe most of the people in Israel, because most of us think they're Ashkenazis, or they're not. They're not, certainly not the. And that's the crux of the biscuit here, is that that the Christian fundamentalists and the Israelis themselves believe that they are the biblical Jews, and people that are looking at it, I think, uh, dispassionately, in an unbiased way, believe that no, you're not the biblical Jews. This is a completely different group entirely, and so you lose that chosen label. And so when you start, again, you start saying you're chosen, people are going to look at you more, especially when you're behaving in this manner. The chosen people is the one bombing people all the time, the ones that are committing genocide, um, the ones that say all these awful things, in the Talmud about the Goy. And there was another thing, if Stephanie gets back, I say, Candace Owens is saying, hello, fellow Goyim. People are saying Goy and Goyim all the time. That used to be a forbidden word. 40 years ago, nobody was saying that in the media. You couldn't say that. And now it's, it's, except Jewish comedians could, but, no Goy could say Goy. And so I think it means something. I don't know what it means, but, I think that it's, we live in very exciting times. And this is it's so sad that we can't get this connection going. So Stephanie has a lot of good stuff to say, and I don't know, we don't connect when we come on there. This is every time pretty much. And I don't know and I know that it's not my connection, because Jack Mullen, who was he was the one who said he was having a problem, but he's her partner. So, he's like, I don't know if he's there with her or whatever. So I think they're hearing me break up, but nobody else is. So that's good. I guess. Rainbow says Theodore Herzl purposely used violence to flood plebes into the public land to perform the duties of the normies, right? Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. She's just, yeah, I know. It's just right when we started getting into a meaty part of the discussion. So hopefully she gets back. And again, I don't know, what, but we need to keep these platforms, even if somebody is screwing with us. I don't know, but and somebody's, uh, the chat room is filling out nicely now. It's in some new names, which is great. Okay, Jack says he's not hearing any issues. Okay, I thought you were. He's in a different location. Okay, good. That's good to know. But so it seems to be Stephanie, but Stephanie was not having any problems until she tried to hook up with me, and that seems to be the issue. And if going back to if you guys watched or listened to it and have video, then two great interviews I had, 2 or 3 with John McAfee, the late John McAfee, on my TFR show. I mean, you could see we had those issues. I mean, they just ratcheted it up as soon as he came on, and he was really cool. He liked me a lot, and they actually contacted me the second time and wanted to have me back on. So I've been unable to hook up with his. I was contacting his wife before that, but once he was murdered or whatever happened, she hasn't answered me because I really wanted to have her on the show because I'm sure she is. I know she has doubts about it, but for whatever reason we have. But that's the kind of thing. The more controversial the guest, it seems like we're more likely to have problems connecting. I'm not sure why, but anyway, so hopefully we can get Stephanie back. And but in the meantime, support Stephanie. She's I think she's still with the government rag. I have to ask her if she's still the government rag is where she used to do all the work, but now she's talking about and I've already forgotten the website. But we'll definitely give her a chance to get that. But if not, Jack can put it in the chat. The new website where they're working for. Okay, there she is. Okay, Stephanie, they keep knocking you off right when you get into something.
I'm starting to be suspicious about this. I had great internet all day, and it throws me out, and it just tells me that we're having technical problems right now. Keep trying, keep trying. So anyway,
well,
I guess it is what it is. But
yeah, what were we talking about? I'm saying, because this is for those of us that, and this has never been my main issue, in terms of Zionism. And I mean, if you look at my books, I really, and I've lost some people since I started concentrating more on it in Substack, but people want to hear it. And when I write about it, I get a lot more readers on Substack. So that's what I'm writing about. I think it's the most important issue now, but but these are things that, again, you used to have to go through the mail and find real extremist publications that people would probably want to burn if they saw it, the average normie would. And now you're getting it everywhere on podcasts, especially the Black podcast. If you watch the Hodge twins and Jason Whitlock and certainly Candace Owens and everything, they're saying whatever they want. I mean, what's going on there?
Well, I mean, I think you're right. Like, we're entering a phase in these end times, I guess, that, people are starting to wake up. There's been so many years of, I mean, just years and years and years of people trying to get the word out of what's really happening. But, people were laughed off that you're just a conspiracy theory and, theorist, and you don't really know what you're talking about. But I think people now, there's some kind of shift in the universe where people really want to know what's happening. And, we can probably say it's because of the fact that, we're now seeing that our entire government is being taken over by Israel. Everybody is starting to realize that, we don't have people that represent us that are, everybody's a fraud. Everybody's paid for by, APAC. And I think people are starting to notice, and one of the things that I have really been intrigued with is the fact that, our nation is completely changed as far as the police state. I know that, the police state, people have been for years talking about, how bad, things are getting with the police and stuff like that. But, over the last year, I've noticed even more and more and more how bad it is and, how dangerous it's become and, what is happening as far as our nation is concerned. And, I know the Constitution really well. It's something that's been a part of my life. I talk about, I listen to, I'm in training every week on, constitutional issues. And so, I really do know the Constitution really well. And, I've really can say that the first thing that's wrong is our educational system is, they don't teach anything that has to do with what the Constitution is. Now, like when you and I went to school, that was something that we had to take when we were in school. We had to know what the Constitution was. The oath of office is something that was very important when it came to, it was expected. It was something that, you had to do if you were going to represent the people, whether it was a sheriff or, a senator or a governor or the president or, just that was something that was not only expected, but you took an oath to. And if, we understood that, if you broke that oath, that was considered treason. And, treason is punishable. And so what we're seeing now is that, the oath is not, it's not taken serious. You ask any of the young people nowadays, what is the oath of office? They don't even know. They have no idea what the Constitution is. They have no idea what the Bill of Rights are. When you ask people in general, and this is just my opinion, but when you ask people in general about the Bill of Rights, the only thing that they can think of is the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
They're the guns. But, it's like, what about all the rest of them? And like I said earlier, freedom of speech, people think that's just about, speaking your mind. And, without journalism and freedom of press and the rest of the Bill of Rights, this nation is definitely going down the tube. And I see it every single day. And I see that with the police state. And, one of the things that, I had up here, I'm not sure how to share my screen. I hit Shift S, but it doesn't seem to pull up anything. So
at the bottom,
maybe you could give me a little bit of help.
At the bottom there, you should see a plus, like a TV, like a screen, a computer monitor, and then a plus in the middle of it. You click that, that should let you share your screen. It should say share screen with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to show this real quick. And this is something that, I think people need to understand that, this guy says if your state is purple, it has a law that makes it illegal for you to receive a public contract if you boycott the small hats. And of course, we know who the small hats are. And are you able to hear that?
I hear you. Did you play an audio or something? I didn't hear anything.
I'm playing the video, so I'm trying to figure out if it's...
No, because it's not. If it's a video, it would show up on my screen. You need to click on the... if you have it open, just click on that plus sign, and it should say share screen. and then it should bring up your other windows, and you should be able to click on the one you want to share. It should let you.
Yeah, it's shared for me.
Oh, wait a minute. Here, it's right here. Hold on.
Well,
Let me see. Here, I got it. There it is. Is that what you, there you go. Can you see it? Is that what you
yeah, I
wanted to
see
share?
it now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna play the video here.
Okay, let's see. Maybe all right, let's
Sorry,
see.
I just don't have enough experience in this yard.
Yeah, let me see if
Stream
it'll
yard
let
here.
me, if it'll let me play it. But I see a post, but I don't. There is a thing to play at the bottom, but when I click on it, nothing happens.
Well, if not, I guess I could just read it.
Yeah.
Well, basically, what it is it's telling people. It's basically telling people that, if you, if you talk bad about Israel or what they consider if you're an anti-Semitic in their eyes, that they're not going to allow in all these states, and it's almost every state in the whole country that
37 states,
is
right? Yeah.
not going to allow. What's that?
I think it's 37 states have passed some kind of measure with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that you're not going to be able to get any government contracts whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, they're totally, going through where they're wiping out jobs with people, even, what you would consider even on local levels in your county where, you're not going to be able to get any type of government contract or anything that would have to do with a state count or, your state or your local city or anything. So you're being monitored at all times, in a way that, most people don't think that they are. We're being tracked, database, everything is recorded. All of our conversations are being recorded. They're all being held in a data center somewhere. Everything that we do on our computers. And, I know that, people go through great lengths to try to, avoid all that, getting certain phones that, you can't be tracked and databased and all that stuff. But for the most part, people in general, can't do all those things. And people that have to use their internet every day, even your internet services is tracking and databasing you. And the police state is getting worse and worse because the cops that they're hiring now, they don't have an IQ that is very high where you can actually, they don't know what their oath is. They don't know what their duties are. They pull people over. They're becoming more and more violent.
Yes.
In every city, every county, and they seem to be hiring certain personality types of individuals that, that they're okay with that. They're okay with just pulling people over and arresting people for, just ridiculous things. And we have now, and I'm a big supporter of, if your sheriff knows what's going on and if he's actually doing his job, then, he shouldn't be allowing this stuff. He should be the person in between all of this corruption. But unfortunately, there's only a few sheriffs, and that are doing that. And so, the more and more, we see with the police state, the worse it's getting. And even the city that I live in, it's not even a city. I call it, it's a little town, but it's less than 10,000 people that live here. But the amount of police that they have on the streets, I did some research one day and found out that the city itself pays over $1 million for a police agency in a small town of under 10,000 people. And, that just blew my mind because, in Chicago, we just recently found out that, in the city of Chicago, that the mayor there who, wanted to make sure that he had Chicago as a sanctuary state. But he himself, the amount of money that he has for his own personal protection is, I believe it's over $10 million and 150 police officers just for his own personal protection. So, I think that that's starting to alarm people. There used to be a time where police officers were considered peace officers,
Yeah.
and there's no such thing as a peace officer
Law
anymore.
enforcement.
And so I think more and more people are, becoming paranoid of the police state, because it's all the way down to the local level now, where you're punished and thrown in jail and fined for just ridiculous things. Everybody's paranoid that you have a gun. And a lot of the videos that I wanted to share with you today were about that, people getting pulled over for ridiculous crimes, like running a red light or running a stop sign. And, next thing you know, their windows broke out, they have guns drawn on them, asking them, do you have a gun in the car? And when people want to, people don't want to answer questions, and they get more and more suspicious. So, anyway, what is your take on that? Do you feel like that's?
Yeah, no, I've written so much about the police. I mean, I have a natural antipathy for the police. I always have, even when they were better. They always, like Alfred Hitchcock, I always was terrified of seeing the police, because they literally hold your life in their hands if they want. I mean, they could, they've been caught on video planning drugs how many times, and nobody seems to care. But one of the biggest problems with the right, with the MAGA movement, even when it was cohesive, because of Trump, they love the police, and they, this hero worship, especially after January 6th. You'd think they would have realized the cops are not on their side. And before that, in the summer of 2020, during the Black Lives Matters and the Antifa riots, when the cops were kneeling with the rioters and washing black people's feet and all kinds of nonsense, not doing anything when buildings were burned down and statues torn down. You think they would realize at this point, why do you think the cops are on your side? But conservatives still, they can't get, just like they can't get out of the, thank you for your service thing. They think the soldiers are, I mean, it's just, that's, I think, the problem. So there will never be an alternative to the crazy woke left, because they love the state power of the police. And now that's why so many of them are supporting the Iran war, because they support any war. Thank you for your service. Support the troops. That's the way I look at it.
That's exactly the way it is. And I believe that as well, that, it's like an indoctrination thing where, you have to thank everybody in the police for your service. And same with the firefighters and everybody else. And, but I also believe that it is a certain type of personality that goes into those, areas. But I'm like you, everybody thinks that, you have to worship it. And the same with MAGA people. It doesn't matter. You can show them anything in the world, and they're still going to be, loving Trump for everything. He's the greatest guy in the world. Look how much he's changed the country, when we all know it's BS. And, there's just nothing else. I've pretty much given up on trying to, tell my family and friends, what's really happening as far as Trump, because most of them are just like, well, look what he's done for the country so far. What has he done? Took us to war.
Yeah.
Well,
Alex Jones always says he's done a lot of good stuff too, and he never gives an example of what good stuff he's talking. Good stuff has he done? He's made a lot of good promises. He's never kept any of them, but now look where the mess we're in. Now. Thanks, Tugger. It's good to see a lot of you people. Stephanie, what I usually do is I usually open up and put the link to the show in the chat because that's the closest thing I can come to phone calls. And then we get people that jump in, maybe video calls if they show their face. Otherwise, it's audio. But if they have questions for you, I think it's kind of cool. If you like that idea,
Yeah,
is that okay
absolutely.
with? Yeah, I like,
Oh, well,
I'm a populist, so it's a kind of a populist thing. Let the people share in the show, So we'll see who jumps in. There you go. So I put the link in the chat there, guys. So if you have questions or comments for Stephanie Sledge, would love to have you jump in. And Stephanie, as I mentioned earlier when you were in here, you first caught my attention with your incredible work on the Gabby Giffords, whatever happened there. And she came to mind today when I was writing Substack because of Mark Kelly, her husband. And I was writing about the
oh my.
Artemis nonsense, and I know you've talked about it too. So what are your, I mean, did they really have to do this on April 1st? I mean, were they just trying to troll everyone? I mean, April 1st? Really? April Fool's Day?
Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing. And I mean, it's incredible. And of course, I've been like a lot of people. I've watched a lot of videos of the whole situation. And, I can't help but think of Mark Kelly as well. And and the other thing too is that, um, do you know the story of the Guthrie lady that was just mysteriously came up kidnapped? Um,
Yeah,
her,
Savannah Guthrie's mother.
I
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
it might have, yeah, yeah, Savannah Guthrie's mother. Well, I have found out that, the night that she was kidnapped and that her family found out, Mark Kelly was the first person they called instead of the police. And I thought that was really strange. Mark Kelly shows up. He plays a do-gooder. He's always in the front lines with
Hmm.
being the senator that he is. He's always in the front lines, saying, Trump, 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 this and that, and trying to take on everything. But he shows up in various places, and I also find it interesting that he's got a twin brother, and
Yes.
he's also an astronaut. But he dropped out of the picture. He's literally disappeared for at least a decade now. But yeah, I thought it was strange. The whole situation with the space,
I had,
I call it not a
oh,
space agency.
yeah, it's ridiculous. And as I said, here they're up in space and they're, first of all, how do you take selfies of the moon? Where's the cell towers for that? How do you possibly get receptacles? But anyhow, they were taking selfies of the moon, and somehow they missed the moon landing sites. But why didn't they ever take a selfie, juxtaposed with the giant round globe behind them? We didn't see any of that. They studiously avoided the biggest sight in the sky, and again, it just creates theories and speculation because you're talking about the giant elephant in the room. That's the giant Earth in the picture. Why aren't you taking? But I didn't see any as you did. I saw a few crescent photos, but of crescent Earth. But where's the big blue spinning Earth?
That's right. And as much technology as we have nowadays, you'd think they would be able to give us some better shots up there. And what I find funny is the fact that they always have whenever they have a woman, she's always got to have her long hair, but it's always flapping back and forth. But but in one video she has.
That proves gravity's not working up there. See, the hair's standing up.
and they just there was one video where they had her hair flapping, but it was hitting the black guy in the face, and he's all he's doing is just sitting there chewing gum.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd think over time that they would get better with their skits, and of course it made a lot of people go back and investigate, the official moon landing videos that they showed, and it's just more hilarious. And
it is
and
hilarious.
I feel bad for the children that have to go to school.
Yeah,
They still have to learn this stuff in school like it's real.
And you can't question it, you know.
Yeah.
But, well, we have the lone white wolf in here. I figured he'd be the first one. White Wolf, what do you have to say to Stephanie? Are you familiar with her work?
No, I'm not familiar with her work, but I'm with her on the police. As far as that, I could fill a Greyhound bus with all the cops that have harassed me over the years, and just on stupid stuff. I mean, I've never gotten drunk. I've never smoked a joint. I've never done anything like that, and yet I've been in jail like twice.
What were you in jail for?
I was in jail for driving faster than reasonably prudent.
They put you in jail for that? Wow.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting because I saw the cop turn his lights on, and I wasn't even sure that he was chasing me because I hadn't done anything wrong. So there was no place to pull over on the road, so I pulled over into a development, and I stopped. And the cop doesn't turn the corner, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I get out of my car, and then immediately another cop charges up, and he jumps out of his car pointing a gun at me.
Yeah.
And
you can't get out of your car, citizen.
Yeah, and I'm like standing there. Why are you pointing a gun at me? Am I? I said, am I a present and immediate danger? And I confronted them, and that's like, well, we're going to teach this guy a lesson. We're going to
never confront them.
Throw him in jail.
You show respect and authority. Yeah, you respect them. There's no doubt about it. But what? Before we forget,
that whole trial turned into a joke. I made that cop look like a complete idiot. He wrote me up 5 citations, and he talked about the great chase that took place. And I drew a map and showed that it was only like 0.2 of a mile. And the judge was like, "What's going on here?" And that district attorney was beside herself. It was, the whole thing was hilarious. And
well, if you came out on top against the cops,
so they won't let me go to trial anymore. That they label me as being mentally unstable.
Well, they fear the white wolf. Okay, and Stephanie, Tony Lightning is requesting what would give out that Ford the website, your new website you're talking about with the Henry Ford stuff. Give out that link.
Oh yeah, it's called the FordInternationalWeekly.com. So the FordInternationalWeekly.com.
Okay, so you can check it out there. But do you have any?
And you can go there and
go ahead. You can go there and what?
You can go there and it has a video up on the front page, and you can listen to the video. It's about 1 minute long, and it'll give you an idea of basically what the Ford International Weekly is all about. And but I encourage it. We've already got it launched, and it's a great site, and I'm very proud that we were able to launch it, and we're just going to keep working on it, and it's going to get better and better.
Oh, very cool. What was I going to? Fugger says Tim Burchett actually stated the truth yesterday about the Hollywood moon landings. Representative said, Fugger, give me more details in the chat. I didn't hear that. I'm surprised anyone in Congress would have the guts to say the moon landings, especially after the glorious as they called it, historic. They were calling it historic that they went and orbited the moon, which they did in 1968, in Apollo 8. But and they also claimed it set a record for the farthest human beings had been away from Earth. And I said, wait a minute. All 6 alleged moon landings were actually a little bit further because they went to the actual surface. I mean, what are they? Are people actually believing that? that this, yeah, I'm surprised they don't act like they just forget the moon landings. It's just unbelievable. I don't know if you heard that much, Stephanie.
Yeah, I people put up a lot of jokes about it, and I find it humorous because and China went to the dark side of the moon at one time a few years
Yeah.
back, and they and they're still putting up pictures from uh, this recent trip, and they're showing pictures of Earth, and they still have the same clouds in the same space, that they had,
Always.
the last time. So I thought that was interesting, but I just find it humorous. I absolutely 100% don't think that we have gone to the moon and we didn't go around the moon, and all of our tax dollars. NASA is just stealing billions and billions and billions of dollars, probably
Yep.
trillions and trillions now. But they can't even get the Hollywood production right. But like I said, the poor children of these days, they still have to go to school and learn about how this was real. And but I think most of the people know. If they don't know, then they run around and tell people, that they're believing this, and they just absolutely don't have any way to think.
No, absolutely. WW, do you have any questions for Stephanie?
Say that
White Wolf?
again. You broke up.
White Wolf, do you have any questions for Stephanie?
Oh, I don't have any questions. Well, what do you think about the controlled demolition of the American empire, which I think started with the Kennedy assassination? The military-industrial complex built the American empire after World War II, and then they began the controlled demolition after the Kennedy assassination. That was its initiation.
Stephanie's spinning
Stephanie
around.
there, she
Yeah,
just
she's
totally
there.
froze in my view.
She's spinning. I have a feeling that she's going to be cut off again. She was doing well, but hey, it's ridiculous. Let's see if she comes back. I have a feeling
Well,
we're
while
going to
we're
lose it.
waiting for her to come back, you've always been big on the Kennedy assassination, and I think
Yep.
that was the start off for the controlled demolition of the American empire. And now Trump is finishing the process. The petrodollar is being slaughtered as we speak, and the American empire is just never going to be the same after this war. And I think that's the whole.
Doesn't look like it.
That's the
It
whole
doesn't
goal.
look like it. It doesn't look like it, and more people again sitting here. When I'm looking at the JFK assassination a little bit differently. For years I've been kind of trained to look in one direction: the CIA, the military-industrial complex, and they were involved. I don't think this was
There's
an
no doubt that
Israeli.
they were involved.
Yeah, there's no Israeli thing inclusively, but given everything that's happened since then and what we know now, not only about JFK trying desperately to stop Israel from developing nuclear weapons and threatening to withhold aid. Imagine any president threatening to withhold aid from Israel. And RFK as Attorney General at the same time working hard to try to get rid of I think it was the American Zionist Committee. It was the parent organization of AIPAC back then, and then AIPAC just took it over to get them to register as a foreign agent, which they are. Again, that was when considered acts of war by Israel.
How was Kennedy as far as the Holocaust was concerned?
Well, he didn't, nobody had talked about that back then, but Kennedy's as I've written about, old Joe Kennedy battled them his entire life. I mean, there was a guy in Hollywood, I forget his name, I wrote about in my books, that was like a producer that was a really good friend of Kennedy's from his days in Hollywood. And later he talked about how Kennedy talked about the Jews, the power all the time in private. That's, he talked about it constantly. So, his sons, I mean, they worshiped him. they heard this. And he also was one of the first critics of the Federal Reserve. So they heard that. They understood it. So it's no accident that his son, lo and behold, is the only person in a huge dispute with Israel and withhold aid from them. And
Okay, well, let me give you an interesting tidbit about Joe Kennedy. Now, Joe Kennedy was good friends with Cardinal Spellman, and those two were on the pier to meet Cardinal Pacelli when he arrived on an Italian ocean liner with the mission of suppressing Father Coughlin.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, well, I mean, Joe Kennedy should have loved Father Coughlin, but
of Father Charles Coughlin, who was definitely ripping the mask off of the Roosevelt administration at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't. All I can say is that's kind of. It's kind of in keeping. If you remember what, it reminds me of what Pat Buchanan, who I love Pat Buchanan, but what he did. Remember when David Duke was running for president? I think in like 1996, I think it was, and Buchanan was running as a Republican, and so was Duke, and he bragged afterwards that he had beaten David Duke, and he said we got rid of his kind, and in the Republican Party forever. And it kind of reminds me of that because he agreed with him on most of the issues. Here we have R.B. Ham. Can you get it? There he is, the courageous Canadian trucker, hardworking man, R.B. Ham. How's it going?
Well, I have a question for R.B. Ham.
Okay.
Go for it, W.
You're up there doing the Canadian trucking thing. Do you drive like across the frozen lakes during the winter, and are you involved in that at all? Because I was kind of curious as to how big that's getting, because I'm suspicious that the Russians are actually trading across the Arctic Ocean at this point.
I'm not an ice road trucker. No, I don't do that. No, so I know, but it's a common practice up here in Canada. That's the only way you supply the people up north who are in isolated communities with the ice road truckers. But it gives a lie to the climate change people. Remember, they all said all that would be melting by now, but the ice road truckers are still every winter hauling goods up on the frozen lakes every winter. So, and we've had a really rough winter. We had an early winter. It started out in late October. We got the first blast. We just had another snowstorm yesterday, and it's April, but it's finally going to be warming up the next couple of days. But we had an early winter and a very late spring. So where is this global warming they speak of? Us Canadians demand it.
Well, the global warming all seems to be happening out west, because I know that they've had trouble running the Iditarod sled race over the last few years because that part of Alaska doesn't get enough snow anymore. And they've had to move the Iditarod further north. So I think that the HARP is having an effect on the weather patterns. I think what they're doing is they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, as far as the weather concerns, and they're creating hot zones and cold zones. And it seems like, especially the east coast of the United States, is a targeted cold zone.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. And I don't know if they think they have as much control over it as they do. They try to target one zone, but then it blows back and creates problems in another zone. And it's just like, but if you look into what these people believe in, these occultists, these global corporatist bastards, they don't really care. What they want to do is create chaos. And
I totally
chaos
agree there.
Yeah.
Chaos and confusion is the name of the game, or what we used to call FUD: fear, unrest, and doubt. I can't remember what the U stands for.
Yeah, that makes sense, because they sure like to do it.
Well, what the Satanists are ultimately interested in is the destruction of everything. They hate beauty. They hate everything that God created.
Yeah, it's all about inversion with them. That's why with Trump, and remember Trump. Remember when they had that Antifa, that planned Antifa riot in Washington, and he walked over to the church. Remember when he held the Bible up? He held it up
Yeah,
upside down.
yeah,
And remember that when he
Yeah.
was sworn into office, he didn't even put his hand on the Bible. I
yeah.
mean, the
That
guy,
was very bizarre.
he, he's a Luciferian, straight up
Well, of
Satanist.
course he is. Yeah, and I can't understand all these people that support him. It's just dumb and dumber. And I've seen that with this Iran war. I'm surrounded by Trump tards. I'm surrounded by people that think, oh, this war is the greatest thing. I heard a Catholic priest the other day say that Trump's war is a just war, and on behalf of the United States. And I'm like, where did you come up with that?
Mm-hmm.
Saint Augustine said, "In the just war, the war is only a last resort." If you want to believe the sheeple narrative, the Iranians had a deal on the table. They were going to allow the United States to inspect their nuclear facilities. They were going to turn over all of their alleged uranium.
WW,
Oh,
did
yeah.
you hear? It's a good time to be a Catholic, WW, because people are finally coming back to the faith, and they're being driven there by this evangelical stuff, combined with Zionism. And Tucker Carlson, who's not a Catholic, but he talks like one a lot. He came up with a great line that I'm using, where he talked today, where he said, I'm not going to believe in Christianity without the New Testament. To me, that's what all those evangelicals sound like: Christianity without the New Testament. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you said several posts ago that you can't understand the connection between the Old Testament God and the New Testament God.
I have a hard time with it. Yeah.
Well, they are. He is one and the same God, as St. Paul said, our Lord Jesus Christ, yesterday, today, and forever. But people have to understand everything in context, and that's the problem. And yeah, people are going to be running back to the Catholic Church, but the Catholic Church right now is a hot, steaming mess. I mean, Pope Frantic, right before he died, he came out with this so-called motu proprio that allowed priests to quote-unquote bless gay unions. I mean, I'm sorry, but
Francis was
God is
horrible,
not
but
going to issue an apology to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Francis, I don't think, was a Catholic. But I mean, Leo seems
No,
better.
he
Though. Is it
wasn't.
my imagination? Leo seems better.
Well, Leo is like to Francis what Benedict was to John Paul II, because the Catholic Church does the same thing with the papacy that the American political bird does. We go. This is how we march to apostasy: left, right, and Pope JP2, he was the liberal pope. Pope Benedict, he was a conservative pope. Pope Frantic, he was a liberal pope. And now Pope Leo, he's the quote-unquote conservative pope, but Pope Leo has yet to undo anything that Pope Frantic did. He just sits there and acts holy and speaks Latin, and all of these traditional Catholics I see are like, oh boy, it's the second coming, we're all saved. And it's like, this is just a clown show. That's all it is. The Vatican has become a clown show. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, it is. But again, I think people are they're looking at, because evangelical Christianity is being exposed just like.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. These evangelical pastors are just a bunch of operators. I heard one of them one time saying to his buddy, you see that seat down there? That represents $50 in donations. That's why we have to fill up these seats.
They're so crass about it. They don't. There's what's her name? That Paula White. I mean, she was screaming at the audience in one of her crazy videos. We need 100,000, and it's just like, what?
If Paula White was around in 1940, she would have been locked up in an insane asylum.
Oh, she's completely nuts. Yeah, she's absolutely nuts.
Totally nuts. Totally over the top. And in her last video with Trump, okay, where she was talking about, oh, Trump, you're the anointed one, and blah, blah, blah. Clapping there like a trained seal was Bishop Robert Barron, okay? The primate of the American Catholic Church. So go figure.
Yeah, no, that was insane. She was lapping it all up like, yeah, that's true. I am, I'd be with Howard's in Canada. Do evangelicals? They don't have that kind of power up there, do they? Or what kind of power do they have there?
they're much less of a presence up here, but they're still here. And I had the fortune or misfortune during the Canadian Trucker Convoy thing going on because a lot of these evangelical Christians supported us. So, and which is nice because, you know, they one thing about the evangelicals is they didn't close their churches like the Catholic Church, the Lutherans, or the Anglicans did. They tried to keep their, and the Baptist church here in town, which was, he's not an evangelical, but he's an old fashioned Baptist. He's the church I went to. He doesn't believe in speaking in tongues and handling snakes and all that stuff. But when I did my town hall tours, we would often go with this lady named Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson, who is a straight out Judeo-Christian evangelical. And she didn't speak in tongues and all that stuff. But what she would do at the end of her little speaking, when she would get up and speak, she would talk about Old Testament stuff all the time and then blow a Shoah horn at the end. And I'm sorry, but I mean, you know, they talk a lot about the Old Testament stuff because it's a lot of fire and brimstone, and it's exciting, and it's easy to get people, you know, clapping and going, yeah, yeah, and it's easy to justify wars against Muslims because evangelical Christians absolutely hate Muslims because they've been conditioned for years to do that. The Oriental prejudice and all that stuff, but since 9/11, it's been wrapped up 100-fold. Because the people who fell for that hook, line, and sinker, that was, you know, radical Muslims are out to kill you and they're coming over to invade your land and all that stuff, they fall for it because, of course, it's right in front of their faces. There are a lot of refugees coming from the Middle East and they're Muslims. That's because we went over there and blew the shit out of their countries. And then Jewish NGOs make sure that all these Muslims come over to our countries to destabilize the country. It's all part of the plan, and they don't understand it. And their sheep, the sheep that go to these evangelicals, they hate Muslims so much, and they elevate Jews so much that you can show them whatever you want about the genocide going on in Gaza or Lebanon. Yeah. You can show them all that we're raping prisoners. You can show them all these horrible things they do to killing children, 70,000 children dead. They don't care because they had it coming because they're Muslims. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it really is incredible. Sorry to hear that, Nick. His mom died during this pandemic, and we couldn't have a mass for her. So, needless to say, I'm pissed at the church. Yeah, and you know what happened? You know that, and that's become almost the norm. I found in my family and stuff is that everything's delayed, and you don't have services right away, and it's because that started then, and it's really a shame. And Marco talks about Pete Hegseth busting out the fake scripture that was out of Pulp Fiction. What did you think of that? He actually, I guess he thought it was real from the Bible because he liked Pulp Fiction. I mean, what talk about a clown show?
Well, he's a fake Christian all the way. That guy, he's a complete joke. He's one of those. I think that, you know, there's a sect of these bikers that believe in all this stuff, and they went over. They worked with Anthony Aguilar in the Gaza Strip when they were doing that food distribution. The sect of bikers, these born again bikers, went over there and worked in the Gaza distribution hub with them, and they said they're all insane. They don't. The only part of the Bible they know is the one that their crazy preacher tells them, and they don't actually read the Bible themselves. They just they just believe what is interpreted for them, and they're a bunch of bloodthirsty, warmongering, you know, assholes that they get their kicks out of it. It's some kind of like perversion. It's really weird.
Well, it is. UYY says it's a real verse apparently that was rewritten in Tarantino's vernacular. I don't know, but what are your thoughts on that, WW?
Well, the evangelical operation is definitely a deep state operation, and these guys have been joined at the hips for the years. And I know as far back as like the 1970s, the evangelicals were talking about the coming Armageddon that was going to happen with Israel and the Middle East, and
I remember too.
So
the Reagan years were full of that talk. It's, you know, it's 40 years after the biblical generation after the creation of Israel. Yeah, I heard it a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, even the Catholics were on board with this stuff back in the day, and now I could do an eschatological deep dive, and someday we have to. There's just no time for it now. But
Yeah.
Suffice to say that yes, Armageddon is definitely coming. In fact, it's here, especially for America. And I think people have no idea what's coming even this summer with the supply disruptions that are going to occur and so on and so forth. I mean, the plastics industry has been shut down for a month, and that's going to take a while to manifest, but it's going to manifest. And in the meantime, we have to figure out where Iran theater is going to go next. One thing's for sure, they keep us guessing.
No, yeah, definitely. No doubt about that. But I'm going to put the link in here again in case nice to see, especially some names I don't see that often in the chat. Would love to meet some of you guys. Jump in.
One
Join the
thing
show.
before I go, I have to go pretty soon. But one thing before I go is I've always noted that these globalist control people, these people that they really like their World Cup. And during the last time that there was this big fear that there was going to be a big Armageddon or the end of the world, I told my friend, no, don't worry, nothing's going to happen because it'll interfere with their World Cup. And the World Cup is supposed to be coming to the United States this year. So I have a feeling that things are going to simmer down just when you don't expect it because they don't want it to interfere with their World Cup.
Well, maybe so because there's a Star Wars movie coming out too.
There you go.
We can't interfere with that. There's a lot of big stuff going on. I can't wait to see Trump talking about the World Cup.
Yeah, like you say, Don, they always make us live in fear of the next World War III, nuclear exchange and all that stuff. I think it's more of a control. It's the way they control us, make us live in fear, keep us guessing all the time. We're all scared, and then they can drive up the prices on us and say, there's nothing we can do about it. Global energy crisis. Sorry, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, they're making out like bandits. Making more and more money and creating more and more serfs and killing the middle class. That's what this is all about. So anyway, I got a boogie. Love you guys, and
thanks,
just want to let you know, Don. Yeah, just want to let you know, Don. Tomorrow night, I'm not going to be doing my show as scheduled. I'm going to be going to a showing of a vaccine injury show here, program here in town. I will probably report on it afterwards, but that's why I haven't got in touch with you. But love you, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, brother. You too. Take care, man. Thanks.
Bye.
Birmingham. Profile and Courage up there in Canada. So again, I put the link out there for anybody else wants to jump in with WW and me. Be happy to have you. And so I'll remove him from the thing. Okay, I just removed him. It's actually I've seen some names here I don't normally see. Marjorie St. Clair, good to see you. So it's an interesting time. There's no doubt about it to be alive. So WW, being the Catholic that you are, do you go to mass or because I think I have one in Washington D.C. It's not close enough for me to go to it, but
okay. Well, that's let's see. I have I've stepped into a church once so far in this year of 20.
Okay, so you don't regularly go to mass, because I was thinking.
No, I don't regularly go to mass because there isn't a priest within 100 miles of here that is not giving us a fake mass. Now I can talk about what I call the bogus ordo for a little bit. Now, of course, you know that after Vatican II, okay, they came out with a quote unquote new mass. Well, that so-called new mass is not a mass at all. It's an abomination, and I think it's invalid. And our Lord Jesus Christ in the gospel said, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, and et cetera, I think he was referring to the quote unquote new mass of Paul VI. Now I could do a real theological deep dive as to why that's invalid, but suffice to say that most Catholics, and they don't even realize this because they haven't been instructed by their priests. These priests, as far as I'm concerned, they're all sellouts. The ones that aren't pederasts are just sellouts, and they're going along to go along because they're effeminate and they love their cushy lives. And that's true even within traditional Catholicism. The Catholics that go to the traditional Latin Mass, I mean, this thinking has infiltrated there too.
Okay,
And
because
they just
I thought maybe you'd try to attend something like. Well, what do you think? Because I mean, I don't remember it, but my much older sisters tell me that the priests used to take a vow of poverty, let alone chastity. And they stopped taking a vow of poverty a long time ago. And
okay,
I think that
well, your sister is a little bit misinformed. Diocesan priests take vows of chastity and obedience. A religious priest, like a Franciscan or a Dominican, would also take a vow of poverty.
okay,
But
okay, so,
but of course, it goes without saying that even a diocesan priest should not live lavishly. He should not live in luxury. He should set a
oh,
good example for his parishioners.
yeah, they have
And
possessions now. They have nice cars and stuff, and and I'm not saying but I think that's what made priests special, is that, and especially if you can find one that isn't messing with altar boys, that isn't a closet gay. To me, I think that's just an exalted thing because I don't know. I give you an example in terms of nuns. I don't know if you, and I'm forgetting her name again. What the hell's her name? There was a real big actress in the early 1960s. She was in Where the Boys Are and a bunch of other things. Oh God, what was her name? Anyhow,
I know
she
who
was
you're
the Elvis
talking
Presley.
about.
Yeah, she became a nun. She left Hollywood, shot through, and became, and I think it's a cloistered nun. And that's 60 years ago plus. She's still there. She's happy. Now, I want anyone to explain to me how that could be anything other than a genuine call from God. This woman gave up lifestyle that average people dream of, and gorgeous woman. The jokes are about nuns. None of them are cute or whatever, but this woman was gorgeous, big Hollywood actress, and she left to give up everything. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but how else would you explain that to me? I think there's something supernatural there.
Well, I can explain it from personal experience because I can say that Lady Poverty is a very good woman. Um, I'm living a lifestyle that's like that most people would consider me to be poorer than crap. And
Mhm.
like, for example, on Wednesday, I fasted on nothing but bread and water. And even though it's the Easter season, I'm still doing penance because God help this country. And it needs prayer and penance. But at any rate, having a bunch of junk is not what it's all about. And as people get older in life, they should realize that all the junk they have just bogs them down. It's like most people don't realize how happy they would be if they would just haul in a dumpster and throw out everything that they haven't looked at
Well, Jesus told his
in the
apostles to
last
give
three
up their
months.
possessions, right? Jesus said to give up your possessions, didn't he tell his apostles that?
Well, our Lord Jesus Christ doesn't necessarily want all of us to give up all of our possessions, but certainly even a rich person can live in the spirit of poverty. We don't have to be eating like a fat pig all the time. For example, I mean, look at Americans. Look at how fat they are.
We
It's
are. I wanted
it's
to
obvious
somebody.
that we live in a gluttonous society.
No, we definitely do. But before I forget, I wanted to talk about and somebody on Facebook alerted me, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't know much about her. Have you ever heard of Dorothy Day?
Yes, I
Who's
have heard of Dorothy Day.
Yeah, I mean, who's now apparently up for sainthood with the Catholic Church, even though she said she didn't want to be a saint. But this woman was remarkable. She took the home where she lived. She took anyone into her house, and I mean took them in, ate the same meals, shared the bathroom, gave up her bed to them, and slept on the floor. And who were the only politicians that met her? Young John F. Kennedy and his brother Joe, before they assassinated him, the first Kennedy to be killed. They went and visited her. They were so impressed with her work, when they were very young, and she remembered them. But I got to find out more about it because you talk about walking the walk. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
I'm not
Dorothy Day
saying
was
that's.
she was big in the Back to the Land movement, and
Mhm.
she really promoted the idea that we should have sustainable households, that we should have gardens and chickens, and
Yeah.
and that we should get quote unquote off the grid as much as possible.
Yeah.
But she understood the establishment and where it was going way back in the 1940s. She was a real pioneer.
And anti-war. She was like Jeanette Rankin, my other hero. And again, I don't think it's any accident that the young Kennedy's boys were meeting with somebody who had also opposed World War II. Not many people opposed World War II. And
Oh,
she was against
I
war.
agree. The Kennedys seem to me to have been a honey trap. I look upon the Kennedys as being an enigma. They're like the Austrian painter.
Mm-hmm.
He's an enigma too. I mean, I was in a debate just this morning with a guy who's trying to convince me that the Austrian painter was one of the good guys.
Well, a lot
And,
of people think that. Yeah.
oh, I know. And I'm like, one of your big fans, Heretic Drummer, that thinks he was
Yes. Yeah.
the greatest thing since sliced bread and the wheel. But
Yeah.
but I look upon Hitler as being a honey trap that was designed by the establishment in order to destroy Christendom in Eastern Europe.
Right.
He sabotaged his own Operation Barbarossa. As far as I'm concerned, the German tanks should have been rolling down the streets of Moscow by August the 15th, 1941. There was nothing stopping them. I also cannot figure out why the Japanese did not invade Russia from the east. That would have crushed Russia. It would have forced Russia out of the war, and then the British would have been forced to surrender.
Okay, I'll let him meet.
RBM, what's going on? RBM.
Hey, I just found out from work that I'm not going out on Sunday. So this week I'm going to do my show on Sunday, and I was hoping you could join me, Don. And maybe I'll try to get Bieta on.
What time would it be?
What time is best for you on a Sunday, Don?
8 is fine. 8 works. 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay,
Yeah.
that works good. I'm going to try to get Bieta back on. It's been a long time since you and the tinfoil hat lady were on together. So
Yeah, I just was wondering about her because I hadn't seen her for a while. So I went, okay, that's cool.
all right.
Is she still loyal? Is she still loyal to Trump? Maybe is that why? Or
No. Whatever our political differences, me and Bieta are friends forever. But she's been waking up lately. Let's just say the last few weeks with Trump's antics, she's kind of like, oh no. So
yeah, that's hard to,
there's some good comedy to be had there, I think. And
okay.
she was at work one day a few weeks ago, and she got hit in the face by a homeless person who came in and tried to do some shoplifting.
Oh,
And she's the manager. She's the manager of the store, and she kind of went to. I don't know what happened. Where the security guard? I'm going to have to find out the whole story. But the security guard that's supposed to be there,
Got clobbered in the face.
got messed up. Wasn't there, so she got punched in the face by this homeless person. So she was.
oh. So we were just talking about. I was talking about the new person I'm fascinated with. Somebody turned me on to Facebook. What's his name? Jim Kalun or something, I think. But he. Dorothy Day, and WW knows that this is my new hero. This woman was, she's up for sainthood in the Catholic Church, and this woman walked the walk. During the 30s, 40s period, the Great Depression. That she took anybody into her house. She took, and she took a lot of mentally ill people. That's what reminded me of when you said with Bieta.
Yeah, there are some real. Yeah, there are some real saints out there, I think.
No, she really was.
You got to say hi to my wife.
Sure. Hi. How you doing?
Hi, Don. I'm good. How are you doing?
Okay, you're living with the most courageous man in Canada up there.
Well, yeah, I think he made me courageous as well. So.
Well, that's
well.
great.
I have a great story I want to tell you right now. So when the COVID nonsense happened, my wife is working as a porter at a hospital here in town. I won't say which one, which means, you transport people from departments to departments.
Sure.
Okay. Now, she was letting me know what was going on the inside. So in the newspapers, they were telling us that the hospitals are overrun. So the hospital she worked at, they cleared out the whole 5th floor to get ready for the whole 4th floor to get ready for this influx of patients that they supposedly were coming. So after 3 weeks, that only 2 people were in there. And the only reason they were in there is because they were really old and they were coughing very heavily with heavy droplets. So they got a droplet tag on their toe, and they were put in on that floor, but there's only 2 of them. And then she kept working there, and they had to, they had all those stupid rules. So they had to make them wear masks. Now, my wife is an epileptic, and she would keep having seizures at work because they were making her wear the mask. So I had to go there a couple times and to the emergency room and bring her back home. So she finally goes to her neurologist and she says, "Look, doctor, I can't work under these circumstances. I need a mask exemption because the neurologist herself told my wife, you're not getting enough oxygen. That's why you're having these seizures at work, because they're making you wear that mask." So she said, "Well, write me a mask exemption so I can keep working there." And her neurologist said, "I can't, because the College of Physicians and Surgeons will take away my license if I write you a mask exemption." So she had to take early retirement from her job.
So I remember you telling me that. God, you guys have been through the mill. It's just awful. And and there's so many people out there that have stories like yours or even worse, as you know. I mean, that's why I try to focus on those people to the extent I can, because it's just there are stories like that, and not everybody, even in good times, that's happening. But now, especially with things being so screwed up, and you're of course in another country. We know it happens here in America all the time, but I don't know if Canada's safety net is probably bigger than ours is. But I don't know.
It's barely hanging in there because of our inflation's out of control. So even the little bit you get from the government for a safety net is being torn apart, and it's getting really bad here because now in Canada they passed this MAID, the assistance in dying program, medically assisted. Okay. Yeah. And that has now become our number 1 cause of death here in Canada, is assisted suicide. So they've basically taken Dr. Kevorkian's methods and made it state policy. And even if you like
our life, that's the number 1. Wow, what does that say about life?
I know. And so we have this woman I know. Her name is Kayla Pollock, and she'd be a great guest on your show. I'm trying to get her on the Jimmy Dore show. She's been interviewed. Finally, she got interviewed by the mainstream media 4 years after it happened. But she went and, like a good soldier, she went and got the Moderna vaccine and ended up paralyzed. She got, what is it called? Myelitis paralysis. And her doctor said, yes, it was the vaccine that caused this. So she went to Health Canada and she said, the vaccine caused my paralysis. What can you do for me? And you know what they told her? Best we can do is assisted suicide.
I heard the story. There was a Canadian veteran up there that a woman who was she was disabled, and she was complaining because they didn't have wheelchair access to her apartment or something, and she kept complaining, and eventually they just told her, "Do you want us to send someone over to help you commit suicide?"
That's right. Yeah. They come to your house if you want. It's drive-in suicide up here. And the thing with Kayla Pollock is she was a 31-year-old healthy mother of 3 when this happened to her. So you know what they're doing here in Canada is they're really putting the youth in euthanasia.
Yeah. They're trying to take
That's a dark joke, but
we put the youth in euthanasia. Boy, that's wow. It's so sad. I don't. And of course, as a Catholic, and I'm sure WW can assure that. There's too much of that in America too, and I'm surprised we don't have something like that. Because in America, if you guys, they would go number 1 with a bullet. That would be the number 1 leading cause of death probably within a week.
So we just had. So I got 2 more stories. 3 weeks ago, there was this lady. She was she was actually 82 years old, avid hiker, right? Really good shape, and she was doing her. She kept in shape by hiking. So she went hiking and she broke her foot. She goes to the hospital, and she goes in there, and a lady came in from the Health Canada and said, "Oh, so with that broken foot, it's you broke your leg or whatever. It was a broken leg. You might have a real hard time recovering from that. So how about we consider assisted suicide?" And she was a healthy woman. And then just a couple days ago, we had another head honcho at Health Canada in this program say that the best thing to do for people who are really mentally ill and are going to commit suicide anyway is we should just assist them in it. because they might not do it right. They might jump off a building, or they'll shoot themselves, or they'll take pills, or they'll swallow poison, whereas we can do it in a humane way. She said that. It was, you can look it up. It's unbelievable. Hey, if you're considering suicide, don't call the suicide hotline. Call the assisted suicide. We'll just do it for you. This country is going crazy, Don.
That is, I fear that coming here because, again, I know how crazy. I can't believe Americans aren't even crazier than Canadians. So they would take to that like a duck to water. I mean, it would be all over the place.
It's like Soylent Green. Remember that part in Soylent Green where Edward G. Robinson goes in for his? That's what's happening. It's crazy.
Green is people. Yeah. Well, and that may be true. We may be seeing that too with all the cannibalism the Epstein list is exposing. So.
Exactly.
I mean, Soylent Green for all we know.
Well, there's that video that's circulating. I don't know if it's real, but some rabbi is talking about how they own the McDonald's franchises, and they put so they killed the goyim, and they put them they ground up the body parts and put it in the McDonald's hamburgers. That's pretty dark too. Yeah. So anyway, so I think maybe we'll even talk about that on Sunday. So anyway, I guess I'll sign off now.
Yeah,
but yeah, guys.
I'd like to talk to that woman if you got her contact info. That'd be cool.
I will. Okay, man. Talk to you later. Bye.
You can. Okay, thanks, Harvey. Take care. Thanks. So, WW, what do you think about? Let me take him off here. I mean, what do you think about what you're saying about Canada? Is that unbelievable? It's the #1 leading cause of death. That's one of the most incredible things I've ever heard.
Well, it just proves that Canada is run by Satanists, and Canada, I think, is just a testing ground for what's soon going to be coming to this country. But I don't see how anybody in good conscience can work for the whole medical racket at this point. It's just completely captured. It's like the education racket and the legal racket and everything else. The government is obviously just one big crime syndicate at this point. The corruption is at every level now. It's down at the local level too.
It's absolutely, there's no question about it. But I mean, I really, and when he, as a Catholic, you probably remember Terry Schiavo back in the 90s.
I remember Terry Schiavo.
Yeah, that was a landmark case. Again, even though I'm a fallen Catholic, but that kind of reverence for life was instilled in me. So I remember at the time being amazed at how many people, and that was in the 90s. And if you remember, Kevorkian was about the same time too. And public opinion was with Kevorkian, and it was with the people that wanted to pull the plug on Terry Schiavo. We're pro-death culture.
The Terry Schiavo case was misreported. Terry Schiavo was not unconscious and on life support. She was actually able to eat by herself and to she was just paralyzed from the waist down, is what I understand. Yeah. But yes, the lawyers and her husband, they basically were conspiring to murder her, is what it was.
Yes. Yep.
And it was absolutely amazing that more people didn't stand up, but apparently they didn't have the courage.
No.
And that's really the problem today. People lack courage. People lack the courage to speak out, and they just want to go along with the establishment and try and be the last one that's eaten by the alligator. Yeah. And at this point, I would agree with Gerald Celente. When you have nothing to lose, you have nothing to lose. And right now, what people don't understand is they really have nothing to lose by speaking out at this point. And if more people would speak out, they would understand how cowardly our establishment really is, and they would all run and hide under a rock, because this country is being run by cowards. They are cowards.
No, there's no doubt about it. Especially they're sorry about this. They're moral cowards. There's no doubt about that. And the idea that we can't. But that's the thing. I think is as messed up as the Catholic Church is. I think it's the last bastion of that.
Well, what's the last bastion is truth, and
yeah. But they at
Our Lord
least
Jesus
make a
Christ is
pretense
truth. And
of,
yes, the Catholic Church, as bad as what it is, has preserved the truth. The Protestant churches, unfortunately, have not. That they've all splintered in a million directions. And
right. And the evangelicals are dominating that. And they're just, and again, I think Tucker Carlson's way of putting it was the most appropriate I've heard. It's Christianity without the New Testament. And
right.
they love to quote that, fire and brimstone
But
stuff.
my fear at this point is they're letting all the truth come out because they're getting ready to burn America to the ground.
Yeah.
Our time is almost up.
It seems like it. It does seem like it. It's hard to figure out because you have Trump, acting like Snidely Whiplash, and WWE, the biggest WWE villain you ever seen, and you have these all these Armageddon scenarios, which may or may not come to pass, and then you have this morality where absolutely no. I mean, when you introduced the suicide thing in Canada, that is essentially euthanasia. Oh, we have somebody coming in here at the last minute. We'll stay a few more. Joseph?
Hi,
Hello,
Don.
Joseph. How are you?
Good. Sorry to come in late. I'll just be
No.
brief.
Sure.
I just wanted to share a tip with everybody based on my personal experience. If you have access to a subscription AI chatbot, I strongly recommend having it help you lower your bills. All you have to do is enter your gross income that you stated on your IRS 1040 and ask it what government benefits or discounts it can help you with on your bill. It's cut my bills over half,
Really?
or gotten rid of them, and all of them. I'll just share one government benefit briefly that I qualified for, and that's the FCC Lifeline benefit. And it started under Reagan, and it's a $10 coupon on your phone bill. And it's a federal benefit, but in recent years, the coupon, some cell phone companies such as SafeLink, and there's some other ones. If you just qualify for the coupon and get the code from the FCC, they'll give you a free phone, unlimited data and minutes, mainly Wi-Fi minutes, for free. They don't even send you a bill, and you get the phone for a year. So I've been leaving money on the table a lot over the years, but the AI really walked me through it. And now all, whether it's a utility or a government agency, they all have portals now since COVID. So it's really easy for the AI to just take you step by step.
What AI did you use?
I use ChatGPT.
Okay.
I've been using it for about a year. I think the extended thinking is worth it. There's an option for a instant response or an extended response. I pretty much only use the extended responses. And it helps to upload your bills. I mean, you can black out any privacy things, but it helps to upload your bills into it. It'll read it. And the things that saved me money on is really, like I said, I've been leaving money on the table. So that's all I had to say.
Well, I appreciate that, Joseph, and I'm sure the audience does too. Thanks so much for letting us know that.
Welcome.
Take care. Okay, guys, we're almost out of time. let me see. We've only got a few minutes, so and Nick and some others are talking about. Be careful of that. Sure, I can tell you from experience with AI support, my X account back. That's not working, and it's completely incompetent. Any closing thoughts or anything?
Well, I just wanted to close with the message of Our Lady of Fatima, which I know a lot of Protestants don't like, but Our Lady of Fatima did say that various nations would be annihilated in the coming war. And I think the United States is really at the top of that short list. So I think Americans should prepare for real hard times coming up. I think they should get out into the country. I think they should do everything they can to have sustainable households. I mean, what Joseph was just talking about is great, but it's the way that they suck you into the grid. It's like, sure, you can save money, but now you're going to be a little bit deeper invested into the grid. And I think it always ends up being a trap ultimately.
Well, you're not the only one. Some people in the chat think too as well. But yeah, it's we're definitely up against it everywhere. WW. I appreciate you being on. You're a fascinating guy. One day we're going to do a show about Fatima. We'll have to do that because you're an expert on it, and a lot of people don't know it. And I think
we have to, because what I was talking about with the new mass and everything else, that all ties into Fatima. And people would be amazed how much stuff that's going on right now ties into the message of Fatima.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. I remember being a little kid when I saw that movie, The Miracle of Our Lady of Fatima, which is amazing that it was made in Hollywood, and it's still shown fairly regularly. And I remember
well, Hollywood is run by satanic pederasts, but they still knew how to pull off the give people a dose of reality now and then. They had to in order to keep up appearances. I mean, if everything they would tell us was a lie, that they would be dumped in the New York Minute. But what they do is they give us 99.9% of the truth, but then they slip in the 0.1% subtle lies, and that's why it's all believable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll definitely have to talk about it. Nick says to tell you he was educated by the Christian Brothers of Edmund Rice of Ireland, here though in the U.S. So good to see. We have lots of Catholics listening, but WW, I always appreciate you, brother. You're a fascinating guy, very interesting, and you deserve to have a bigger voice. Thanks everybody for putting up with the technical difficulties. Stephanie Sledge has a lot to offer, and I hope you got something out of it. And we'll try again at some point soon. But I appreciate everybody for listening. And thanks again, WW. We'll talk to you. We'll see you next week, same time on I Protest. Take care.